Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Wow. That just took me saying good afternoon and everyone quieted down. That's the difference between being a dean and being a mere law professor. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us on this very, very special occasion. And please don't blame my staff. They told me no speechifying because they've already learned that I'm given to speechifying. But I'm going to disobey them. I'm just going to say just a couple of words. First of all, and I will welcome our honored guests and introduce them to you in a minute. But just so I'm certain that the justices and the distinguished guests from the bar understand, I think they do, but understand what we're doing here. I wanted to say as short and as succinct a way as possible my view of our mission. My view of our mission is grounded in St. Thomas Aquinas' definition of law. Law is an ordinance of reason promulgated by the proper authorities that serves the common good. Now, I have been telling audiences all over the state and frankly in the country, if you asked most law school graduates, including me in 1989, on the day that we graduated from law school to define law, I wouldn't have been able to do it coherently. Not without using words like money or power or influence or politics, maybe, if I were particularly sharp that day. I wouldn't have come close to St. Thomas's definition. And the reason that's so important is twofold. Number one, many of our colleagues at the bar, I believe, don't truly understand their mission to serve the common good. And they lose sight of what it is we lawyers do and what we should be honored to be doing. And so is it any surprise that so many of our colleagues before the bar turn to other things when they feel empty about what it is they're doing day in and day out? The second thing is to say that Ave Maria School of Law, after their first semester, my students can get, or they should be able to, give St. Thomas's definition of law, and that helps set the stage for the rest of their legal studies and hopefully career. Speechifying over by the dean, so thank you for that point of personal privilege. Let me welcome, first of all, our three distinguished guests, justices of the Florida Supreme Court. We have also some distinguished visitors from the Florida Bar. And I'd like to also welcome you, audience, students, faculty, staff, and maybe there's one or two people that just sort of wandered on the grounds today and decided this looked good. Let me begin by introducing let me begin as we begin everything at Ave Maria School of Law with a prayer. And I am going to call up one of Mary's Marines, a graduate of Ave Maria University, and where they have this organization called Mary's Marines. That's why I always call her a Marine. And ask Miss Grace Kazanowski to lead us in prayer.
Let's begin in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Heavenly Father, we thank you for Ave Maria School of Law and for the formation we receive here. We come before you today asking you to anoint our minds to better serve you and your people. Continue to form our hearts to be responsive to the promptings of your Spirit. Enlighten us with the true counsel that only you can give. May our lives and our work always be pleasing to you, and may our integrity, virtue, and high ethical standards never cease to reflect the education we receive. Preserve Ave Maria in its mission and bless its efforts to create the culture of life that you desire. We also ask that you grant the Ave Maria School of Law graduates the perseverance to study hard so that they might be successful on their bar exams. We ask this through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen.
In the name of the Father, and of the Son,
Well done, Marine. Thank you. Now it is my great privilege and honor to introduce our distinguished guests today in alphabetical order. First, Justice John Couriel on the end. Justice Couriel is the 90th Justice of the Florida Supreme Court. Justice Couriel received his A.B., his Bachelor of Arts, magna cum laude from Harvard College and his J.D. from Harvard Law School. He clerked for the Honorable John D. Bates of the United States District Court for the District of Columbia before joining the White Shoe Law Firm. Do we still say that, White Shoe? Davis, Polk, and Wardwell in New York. His practice included securities law, mergers and acquisitions, bankruptcy matters, and investigations. In 2009, he became an assistant United States attorney for the Southern District of Florida. He prosecuted hundreds of federal offenses, including international money laundering, public integrity, healthcare fraud, and human trafficking crimes. He later joined the law firm of Cobre and Kim, where he specialized in cross-border disputes relating to financial products and services, asset recovery, and government enforcement defense, with a special emphasis on clients in Latin America. He was appointed to the Florida Supreme Court by Governor Ron DeSantis on June 1st, 2020. Welcome, Justice Couriel. Now, I hasten to state two things. First, these are in alphabetical order, and second, I do not have any favorites on the Florida Supreme Court. However, I'm now going to introduce Justice Jamie R. Grosshans, who was known to me for many years as Jamie Rutland. I was going to say justice. She was not a justice when she was a student in my civil procedure and corporations classes. And today, she has reminded me of how disappointed she was in me in corporations. And now she has the contempt of court power, so I'm a little bit worried. In any event, Justice, it is my pleasure to introduce Justice Jamie R. Grosshans, who was appointed to the Florida Supreme Court on September 14th, 2020 by Governor Ron DeSantis. Previously, she was appointed to the 5th District Court of Appeal in 2018 by Governor Rick Scott. She also previously served as an Orange County court judge in the 9th Judicial Circuit of Florida. Justice Grosshans graduated cum laude from the University of Mississippi School of Law. Hotty toddy. During that time, she clerked for the Civil Rights Division of the Department of Justice in Washington, D.C., and the United States Attorney's Office for the Northern District of Mississippi. Following her admission to the Florida Bar, she served as Assistant Attorney General for the 9th Circuit of Florida. Justice Grosshans later entered private practice and did something that I think takes tremendous courage. She founded her own law firm and made a go of it, ladies and gentlemen, where she focused on family law and criminal defense matters. Justice Grosshans, Jamie Rutland, welcome to Ave Maria School. And as I said, alphabetical order, so Justice Muñiz, no offense intended. Okay. Justice Carlos G. Muñiz was appointed to the Florida Supreme Court by Governor Ron DeSantis on January 22nd, 2019, becoming the 89th justice since statehood in 1845. Prior to joining the court, he served on the staff of Secretary Betsy DeVos, I think I've now pronounced that 3 different ways today already, as the presidentially appointed, Senate-confirmed General Counsel of the United States Department of Education. In addition to working as an attorney in the federal government and in private practice, Justice Muñiz had an extensive career in Florida state government. He served as Deputy Attorney General and Chief of Staff to Attorney General Pam Bondi, as Deputy Chief of Staff and Counsel in the Office of Speaker of the House of Representatives of Florida, as General Counsel of the Department of Financial Services, as General Counsel, to Governor Jeb Bush, and probably a dozen other things we don't have time to list. Justice Muñiz, I'm proud to say, is a graduate of the University of Virginia, Wahoo Wah, and of Yale Law School. After law school, he clerked for Judge Jose Cabranes of the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit, and for Judge Thomas A. Flannery of the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia. And I am also pleased to say that his daughter, Lydia, is visiting us today, and they are also all going out to visit Ave Maria University afterwards. Please welcome Justice Muñiz and Lydia Muñiz. And of course, we have three more folks to introduce. Dean Milliron will introduce one of our very special guests, Joe Tompkins, but Judge Tompkins, thank you so much for arranging this visit. We also are privileged to welcome two distinguished members of the Florida Bar. Students, when you hear their positions, these are good people to get to know, I'll just tell you that. First is, please welcome Charbal Barikat, who is Vice President and Chief Regional Counsel for D.R. Horton, Inc., America's Builder, and he is Chairman of the Florida 2nd District Court of Appeals Judicial Nominating Committee. He also, I am told, in 2018, was a Jeopardy champion. And he got to meet Alex Trebek. And I'm also told that the Florida Supreme Court justices have videos of him on their cell phones. So, I'll take potpourri for 500. Also, our second distinguished guest from the Florida Bar, Mr. Carter Anderson. I don't think, Mr. Anderson, that you were a Jeopardy champion. But he is a member of the 13 Judicial Circuit's Judicial Nominating Commission and a member of the Florida Bar's Board of Governors. And thank you both for all you do for the bar and ultimately for our students and graduates. And now I am told it is time to turn over the program to, there she is, Associate Dean Milliron for one more introduction.
Judge Tompkins, I didn't forget you. I was so excited when I was asked to be able to do this introduction. I'm going to start out formal and probably get a little informal. I might even tear up, who knows, towards the end. So, Judge Joe Tompkins was appointed by Governor DeSantis to the Hillsborough County Court bench on September 15th, 2021, and his investiture is tomorrow, I believe. Prior to his appointment, Judge Tompkins served as an assistant United States attorney in the Middle District of Florida. Prior to serving as a United States attorney, Judge Tompkins served as a senior law clerk to the Honorable Nellie Kuzmin at the 2nd District Court of Appeal, a senior law clerk to the Honorable Douglas Wallace, now retired, at the 2nd District Court of Appeal, and as a staff attorney to the Honorable Thomas P. Barber at the Circuit Civil and Felony Division at the 13th Judicial Circuit Court. Judge Tompkins graduated magna cum laude from Ave Maria School of Law, where he received the Mary Queen of Lawyers Award, which is given to the graduate that one would most want defending them in the greatest hour of need. Judge Tompkins received his BA from Ave Maria University, where he graduated cum laude and received the school's highest awards for leadership, community service, and academic excellence. As I said, I was certainly thrilled when I was asked to introduce Judge Tompkins. I had Judge Tompkins, can I now call you Joseph or Joe?
That's fine.
Sorry. As a student, in my short stint in teaching business organizations and also in research writing and advocacy, which is now LAWR 3. And of course, he excelled in both. He was engaged and participated in classroom dialogue in a way that enriched the discussion. Each one of his former professors speak highly of him, And one of his professors recently at a faculty meeting described him in the following manner in a review from a class presentation. A naturally gifted advocate with exemplary professional poise, personal demeanor, sharing superbly competent commentary. Joseph has been a great supporter of our law school after graduating, even coming to several iterations of the bar exam to support our students when they were taking the bar. We are not only honored to have Judge Tompkins present today, but are extremely grateful for his work in putting together the visit of our Supreme Court justices. Thank you. And we have a little gift for you. We're now going to turn over to the portion of the program where we're going to ask the justices some questions, and I get the honor of introducing a few of our students, maybe future judges themselves. We have Jasmine Crooks, who is currently the president of our Black Lawyer Student Association. We have Grace Kasnowski, who you met a little earlier, who's a Mary's Marine, and I think is trying to start a chapter here at Ave Maria, and she's also a part of our Ave Maria School of Law Law Review. And Andrew Kohler, who is the editor-in-chief, which I should know because I did the same thing, it's hard work, editor-in-chief of our Ave Maria School of Law Law Review. So I'm going to turn it over to them to individually ask the questions of the justices.
Justice, thank you again for being here today. Justice Couriel, a very general first question for you. What do you like about being a Florida Supreme Court Justice, and what are some of the challenges?
You mean other than these two? First of all, thank you all for having us. It's a real treat to spend time with you, get to know you a little bit, and to get to see your school. It is unusual, to say the least, that a school is as intimate as this is. You guys are really lucky that you are geographically proximate with each other, and that your faculty is like around the bend. I mean, this is really impressive, and so we all feel very privileged to be here with you. I think it is an embarrassment of riches to sort of do the work that we do. It is a tremendous blessing to serve in the way that we serve. I never thought that I'd be doing this. I thought my life would look very, very different, and I think there's a lesson in that perhaps we'll get to later. But I think the best part of the work we do is, in fact, the fact that we get to do it together. Many judges, trial court judges in particular, they're up there by themselves. They're on a platform, literally and figuratively, and they are sort of solomonically deciding what to do and under tremendous pressure to be right, even when they are alone. I have the great fortune of never making really a decision completely by myself. I always get to speak with my colleagues about any decision I'm trying to make, and I think that makes us better at our job. And I think that's part of the genius of our judicial system in this country. The fact that it rests on almost a disquisition between us, almost an exercise in persuasion and of conflict of ideas, but also of consensus building. The fact that the seven of us sit en banc for every decision that we make, I think, contributes both to the quality of the fellowship among us and to the quality of the decisions we reach. So I feel very, very privileged to have the colleagues I have. When I took the job, I had absolutely no idea that I would like these folks, and I'm very gratified that they put up with me, and I hope they like me back. But I very much enjoy being on the court with this particular group of people.
Thank you.
So Justice Muñiz, my question is for you. I'm just wondering what advice you would give to law students who are aspiring to become judicial law clerks or maybe even judges.
Thanks for that question, and thanks for inviting us to be here. It's been a great visit. I've been a fan of your school kind of from afar for a long time, and as I've told a lot of you I've met with, one of my law clerks went here, Meredith Lundy. She's great. So I've, in addition to just hearing what she's told me about the school, I've been able to see through her character and through her work and you know, the formation that she received here in undergrad at Ave Maria, just what great things are happening here. And I do want to emphasize that it's so refreshing to hear what the dean said about the definition of law and kind of what your sort of organizing kind of vision here is, because you know, when I went to law school, there were, you know, we had the sort of dry, sort of utilitarian kind of perspective on the law, a lot of the kind of law and economic stuff. And then we had, you know, to the extent that people were making explicitly moral claims about the law, a lot of times they were making them, you know, in service of, you know, objectives and a worldview that, you know, that I didn't think was going to serve the common good. And I think that unfortunately a lot of people, it's caused, you know, that sort of that contrast has caused a lot of people to become kind of averse to talking about, you know, the moral aspects of law, because if a lot of the sort of prevailing view, if that's what, you know, equating law and morality means, then a lot of people don't want to have anything to do with that. So I think to have a vision of the law that's, you know, that's based in morality, that's based in Catholicism and Christianity, and for you guys to be able to immerse yourselves in that for 3 years, and, you know, and beyond. And I think one of the great sort of challenges that you have, and one of the goals that you should have, is to take, you know, the formation that you get here, the intellectual formation, what you learn, and think about how you can translate that into, you know, how the rest of the world sees the law, because you don't want to just kind of, you know, enrich yourself and then not be able to kind of, you know, change the way the law is. I mean, you know, when you say kind of what is law, I mean, to some extent the law is what's on the books. It's what courts decide. It's what legislatures pass. It's what the people in our case, in our state in Florida, put in the Constitution. So, you know, if you want to be able to influence that, you have to think about, you know, your own intellectual formation, but then also how to translate that into, you know, changing the world, which I know is you know, what you want to do here. As far as clerking, you just have to, you know, a lot of, I'm sure my colleagues would agree, a lot of, there's kind of a baseline of excellence that you have to attain. I personally put a huge premium on, you know, getting along with people and kind of my sense of sort of what the fit, you know, with our team is going to be. But in order to sort of be in the pool of people where you then, you know, maybe the deciding factor is personality or whatever, but, you know, you've got to do well, you've got to, you know, it helps to come in the door with some, you know, good writing skills, which I know is a big emphasis here at your school. And, you know, just be intellectually curious and you know, when you're doing your interviews, you know, don't be shy about, you know, about giving whoever you're interviewing with an opportunity to get to know what you're like personally, because when you're a judge, I'm sure my colleagues would agree with this, you know, we go from our pre-judicial lives that are often kind of, you know, very much out there and, you know, doing things with, you know, in the community, or, you know, your legal, your professional stuff or whatever, and, you know, you're very kind of involved with people. And then when you join a court, especially an appellate court, you know, you're much more isolated, and so your team day to day largely consists of your clerks and your colleagues. So the personal thing is very important. So you got to be able to sort of communicate that in your interview, and hopefully kind of hit it off with you know, the person you're interviewing with. And then we can talk more later, I guess, about becoming a judge. I don't want to monopolize the time.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. Justice Grosshans, if you could go back and give yourself advice as a law student, what advice would that be?
Well, I would say be really nice to Dean Zarneski. No, I think, again, to echo what my colleagues have said, thank you so much for having us. This has been such a great day. This is one of the best parts about the job, is being able to meet people that we might not have met, to travel, to meet law students in a way that the average lawyer does not get to do. And to answer your question, I think if I would have two things. The first is, don't ever think that what you're planning to do in law school is what you will end up doing. You're gonna need to be a little fluid on that. You know, I went to law school planning to be in the civil service, and eventually I wanted to be an ambassador. I had big plans, maybe even marry a member of the royal family. You know, I had a lot of plans. And instead, I went to law school, and I discovered I really liked criminal law. And then I ended up doing some work at the U.S. Attorney's Office as an intern, and then I ended up moving to Florida because, like many people, I met someone, and I fell in love, and he was in Florida, and so I moved there, and the only place I could get a job, because I went to a law school out of state, was at this particular state attorney's office, and so I started as a prosecutor. If you had told me that day, hey Jamie, you're gonna practice family law, I would have said, that is never going to happen. And then guess what I did? I practiced family law. And then if you had told me I was going to be a judge, I had no interest in that. I had never even met a female attorney until I went to law school, much less a judge. So I had no interest, no concept of that. And so you just never know where life is going to take you as doors open and you take them. So I would say that, and with that comes be the best you can be at what you're doing right at that moment. That was even when in the worst days of practicing family law, which there were some, I always try to remind myself that I was going to be the best family law attorney for my clients who made $25,000 that I could be on that day. And that's what I would say to myself in law school, is just be the best at whatever is placed in front of you at that moment.
Thank you.
I thought my wife was the only person I knew who wanted to marry someone from the royal family.
We all have dreams.
Well, I think we have till 1:15. Am I right? Schedule, people? And so those were the students that we asked to prepare questions. Would you be willing to take some more questions?
Absolutely.
Would you like us to answer the path to being a judge question?
What I was going to say is, were any of you, would any of you like to answer a question that wasn't asked to you? So open the floor to those. Yeah, path to be. Anyone have any comments? Anyone want to critique each other's answers?
We do that a lot. No, I would just say, I think the three of us had very different backgrounds, and I think that's important to point out, that the path to becoming a judge, there is no one set path to be a judge in Florida right now. And then I've been a county court judge, just like Joe is going to be, or is, and be official tomorrow. I've been in appellate court at our intermediate level judge, and then I've been now on this job. And so I would just say, keep that in mind. There's no specific path, and kind of going along with that, doing your best. That integrity, the quality of integrity follows you from the first day you practice law to this point. And there are people who recommended, who called for me at every stage, who I practiced in front of day one as a lawyer. And so I would say, just keep that in mind, that every single day you practice, you're building your reputation, you're building your future. Second caveat, know what you believe about your philosophy, what the importance of law is, what you think the role of a judge is, because you're not gonna have time to think about it when you're a judge. The time to think about it is before, and I can't tell you, I know for me, and I'm pretty sure for these guys, we spend a lot of time developing that, thinking about that, being prepared to answer questions about that, and that's very important. John? You should hear this story though. His path is good. Tell him how you lost him.
lawyers, I make it a point to say that I have good news and I have bad news. The good and bad news is the same though. You're gonna lose. There are things that are going to happen to you that you're not gonna like. You're going to have disappointments. And the truth is that the disappointments will only feel that way for a short while. Because if you are paying attention, you will metabolize that defeat and take from it what is nutritious and discard and forget what is not. So in my career, when it's told, as Dean Sarnetsky tells it, it doesn't sound like there's been a lot of defeat, but I guarantee you there's defeat lurking behind everything that people talk about. I ran for office in 2012 and got beat so bad that the person who beat me later complained that I made her miss her vacation, and that was basically the only consequence of my having run for office. I ran again in 2016 and lost again, that time by a much narrower margin, but it hurt just as bad. And you know, I think that there is a lesson certainly there was a lesson for me in both of those victories that I thought were defeats at the time. You know, they put me, it's hard to say on a path because I didn't set out to get here. I didn't set out to be here. I set out to do other things and found myself here. You know, that means, you know, for all of us, like there will be fellowships that you apply for and won't get. There will be jobs you'll want and not get. There will be, you know, scholarships you'll apply for and not get. There will be clerkships you want and won't get, and they will feel like defeats to you, I promise. But there's a combination of, wait for it, faith and reason that gets you through that, right? A combination of making the best decision you can where you stand at a particular time, that's the reason part, and faith, which is not knowing what this path is and believing nonetheless that it is a path that is meant for you. Faith, after all, isn't faith when you can see. It's only faith when you can't see. When you can see, it's not even belief, it's knowledge. And so I think to the extent that my career path, such as it is, has a lesson to it, it's just that it takes a little bit of faith and a little bit of reason to make the best decision you can today, which is, after all we have. You know, we're not promised anything other than that.
So I think on the, I think as far as the, you know, thinking about becoming a judge, you know, one of the first things you have to always remind yourself is there's a huge amount of luck involved. There's all kinds of variables that you have no control over. You know, things have to fall your way, vacancies have to happen, you know, at a particular time. If you, you know, try to become a judge through getting elected, there's all, you know, it's a matter of, you know, who has the jobs and what, you know, what their plans are and all that sort of thing. So accept the fact that it's, you know, there's a big element that you can't control, and just sort of be comfortable with that. Accept the fact that you're going to need help from people. People, you know, each of us here wouldn't have, you know, been able to have the job that we have now if there hadn't been people at various points throughout our career who had trusted us and given us opportunities. And then in a more immediate sense, when we were, you know, being considered for this job, you know, people who vouch for us. And that was the one thing I forgot to say about the clerkship thing too, is get to know your professors, because there's no substitute for a good recommendation to a judge from a professor that the judge knows. If they can, you know, because they know what the judge is looking for, they know the personalities, they can say this person would be a great fit for you. Because, you know, remember, the clerking thing is a two-way street. I mean, you know, you can focus on, oh, I want a clerk, but, you know, I mean, you hopefully would, you know, you want to, if this is a mentor for life and whatever, I mean, you'd want it to be somebody that you have a good fit with, and so your, you know, your professors can really help you with that. And then the final thing on the path to the judge thing is, you know, I had a lot of jobs in government and public service, and I always felt like I was part of a team that, you know, that was working toward, you know, principles that I believed in. And I always felt like, if whatever my job was, if that was the last thing that I did in government, that I would have been totally satisfied. And I, like these two, I don't think I didn't start off my career after law school day one thinking I want to become a judge and how do I make that happen. I just sort of took one thing at a time. I always was on teams that I believed in. I would have been totally fine if I hadn't have ended up where I did. So I would just encourage you to just be comfortable with, choose things that that are ends in themselves, that that you would be happy with, that you feel like you're making good use of your God-given talents and why you're here on this earth and stuff. I mean, if it turns out if you want to be a judge and if it works out, that's great. But do things that if you don't end up becoming a judge, do things that you will have been proud of and that you feel like you've used your gifts in a good way, and that leave you fulfilled and feeling like all the hard work that you did with your education here and whatever you do professionally, just choose things that you would find satisfying in and of themselves.
Wow, fantastic. Those that have heard me speak, you're going to be bored with me because I say these things all the time. What did I just get out of those inspirational remarks? Number one, if you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans. I heard that from all three of you, in a way. But I loved, Justice Couriel, especially the way you put it, faith and reason encapsulated. I'm going to put some words in your mouth. You don't mind, do you?
It happens all the time.
Particularly from academics. Yeah, it's nice being deep.
Newspaper editorial.
Faith and reason means doing the next right thing. Doing the next, I love, and don't think I missed, I think you were quoting St. Paul there on faith.
Yes.
So, faith, and even if you weren't, you're going to say yes.
It's my confirmation.
Faith and reason, doing the next right thing. Gosh, I wish I'd had a Supreme Court justice say that to me when I was 25 years old. So thank you for those inspirational remarks. I have a million questions, but it's not all about me. How about some students? What questions do you have? Talk about faith and reason. I'm opening it up to random questions. Who's got one? Uh-oh. My next door neighbor, Mr. Badman.
Good afternoon. One of the things that I'm constantly wondering about for people with enormous responsibility is how do you decide to accept that responsibility, and how does that affect, how do you handle that responsibility day to day?
First. Well, it is hard to tell the governor no. So I will go, I think before I ever applied, I talked to at least 2 other members of the court and got pretty specific. And so I knew, for the most part, what I was getting into, and had to be willing to do that. The way I stay grounded is I have 3 children, and one who will be 13, my oldest will be 13, she's a girl, and I don't know if you guys know this, but I actually know nothing. According to her and my 7-year-old, the only person who thinks I know anything is my son, who's 11. He thinks I'm okay. But the other 2 are pretty sure. And so, but honestly, in all seriousness, they really do help me stay grounded. A strong family, a very strong community, a church community, not Catholic, I have to say. I'm feeling very Baptist here today.
There's still time.
Baptists are way too lazy to be Catholic. But just that strong church community, that strong family, it really is essential in kind of staying grounded outside, and not we have a lot of friends who are lawyers, but I have a lot of friends who are not lawyers who could really care less, other than they're proud of me. But that's about it, and I think that's very important.
So I think you pray is really the answer to your question, is you pray. The prayer of Solomon is just for wisdom, right? Only for wisdom. And I think any of us would be lying to you if we said we hadn't done that on a daily basis. Because at the end of the day, we're custodians of authority. The authority isn't given to us because of how special we are or anything like that. It's a constitutional function in our government that someday will not be ours. And for a brief time, we get to do good with it, and then hopefully not pass it along in worse shape than we got it. And so in this sort of custodial role of the justice system, I at least am very cognizant of our history and in all of its greatness and folly, and pain and glory, and I'm mindful that I have this brief moment to try and do something worthwhile with it, and then I pray that I'm wise enough to do with today what I can, and then that has had a couple of results. One result of it is I sleep really well in this job, much better in this job than I've ever slept before in my life, because at the end of the day, I feel like I've done my best to really understand what I'm trying to do, what's before me, really understand the arguments for or against any particular conclusion, by probing, by asking the hardest questions of what I really think. And I'm tired at the end of that, and I feel like I've done an honest day's work. And so that I think is the answer, is I think you just take it one day at a time and you pray for wisdom.
I think, as my two colleagues have said, one of the great things about our job is that we're part of a team. There's 7 of us, and so I think that helps with the sense of the responsibility, because we're not just kind of trying to decide things on our own. We have the comfort of being able to talk through things with our colleagues, and then whatever the court as an institution ends up deciding to do, there's at least 4 of us who thought that it was the right thing to do. Also, just for me personally, having had a career and been able to see other people in government who I really respected and who had a lot of really tough decisions to make, harder than anything that I've had to decide since I've been at Justice, working with Governor Bush, or not with him, but for him for several years, and watching him and other people who are really dedicated to serving, Secretary DeVos, she was a great leader, Pam Bondi, I got to see them handle a lot of responsibility, a lot of stress, and so, luckily I didn't just sort of get plopped into the job, you kind of learn from watching other people. And then, I'm sorry, I had a third thing that I was gonna say, but it's
The Department of Energy.
No, yeah. That's it. Was that a Rick Perry joke?
Yes.
If I think of it, I'll come back to it.
Well, thank you. And Justice Grosshans, you don't have to be Catholic to come down to you. But I'm just still caught up with the exuberance of being able to come out as a devout Catholic, that I can't help myself. Justice Grosshans was a Blackstone Fellow, for those of you that know what that is. She's used to us Catholics. I think we have time maybe for one more. We want to be sure the justices and our guests are well fed. Ms. G.
After law school, how do you keep yourself within the law community with people that support you and are going to uplift you, and you have to avoid feeling isolated? Like, what would be your advice?
It's a good one.
Don't underestimate the value of opposing counsel as friends and sources of opportunity. In any kind of work, you will be representing some client whose interests will be adverse to some other client. And that's true whether you're a corporate lawyer negotiating a deal or a litigator appearing in court or a prosecutor or a defense lawyer. Too often, young lawyers think that what clients really want is someone aggressive and mean, when what clients really want is a solution to their problem. They didn't hire you because you were smart, they hired you because they have a problem, and they'd rather not be talking to a lawyer. It's one of the tough things to accept as a young lawyer, is that your client would really rather not be talking to you. Once you've accepted that you're there to solve someone else's problem, that should change the way you view your adversary. Your adversary is not your enemy. Your adversary has someone who's got a problem too. And whether it's in court or across a negotiation table, the relationship between you and opposing counsel should be a source of fulfillment. And I always had this experience when I ran across a lawyer who was just being small and nasty. I just felt sad for them. Like they didn't get it. They didn't understand that if I was impressed with the intellectual aggressiveness of their argument and they beat me really bad in court, my instinct would be to refer them a case the next time I had one if they were pleasant, right? If I enjoyed spending time with them. I looked forward to having adversaries who were well prepared and who were graceful and who were illuminating because they made me better. And you know, that is an underrated source of fellowship in the law, is that your adversaries will make you better, and you can make them better if the right spirit of professionalism comes to predominate in our profession. If you really start viewing your adversaries as the source of your next case, the source of your next opportunity, the source of a new argument. That's the way our profession is supposed to work. That's why we have apprenticeship. That's why we have an adversary system. It's this idea that if there's a dueling, if there's a conflict, that a better rule will emerge, and better advocates will emerge. So I would encourage you not to be mean, even if you think that that's going to get you better short-term results with a client. It is a very short-term way of looking at the world. The client, at the end of the day, is happier with the lawyer who solves his or her problem.
And clients come and go really fast.
It's true.
And it's just a practical thing too, I would say. Sometimes you have to create it yourself. And you're already busy, you're already a lawyer. Really the last thing you want to think about is how am I going to form like a support system, and you really have to be willing to do that. You have to find the organizations you want to be with, you want to volunteer with, you want to be a part of, and sometimes you have to create them. I happen to marry a guy who's a dreamer, so he has all the ideas, but I'm the one who has to do all the work. And so, but I'm very organized, and so I liked that. And so when we were early on in our law careers and marriage, my husband had this dream. He wanted to restart this Christian Legal Society chapter in Orlando that had been dormant for 20 years. The last time they met, it was a bunch of older guys at Denny's. He's like, this is not what it's supposed to look like. Charbel disagrees. He's like, Denny's is good. But he really wanted to create this for younger, for and networking for that very reason, for that mentorship and encouragement, because it can be very lonely being a lawyer. And he did, and we restarted this chapter, and a lot of things came out of that. That was really great, but sometimes you have to kind of make it. You have to make those communities happen.
Yeah, and I think that was one of the things that I liked about having a predominantly government-oriented career, is that I did always find myself with people who, even despite our kind of different backgrounds and personalities and whatever, when we were working for common goals, I got a lot of satisfaction from that. And so I think if you go into government, that's to some extent can be kind of baked into it. I think if you're going to a firm, it's important to find firms that have an ethos that matches what you're trying to do with your life, whether they're dedicated to excellence or whether they're really interested in a particular intellectual pursuit. If the only thing uniting people is trying to make money, then they're probably maybe some people will find a lot of satisfaction in that. I'm not sure if I would, but whatever it is that's important to you, if you join forces with people who care about that, and then obviously the support doesn't have to come through work. It can come through groups like what Jamie was talking about, Christian Legal Society, or other groups, and then of course, you know, your family. And I do think it's good to always make sure that you're connected with people who aren't lawyers and don't care so much about the law, because it's nice to have people, you know, if you do get stressed about your work, you're a judge, if you get stressed about your cases or whatever, it's nice to be forced to kind of keep things in perspective by the views of people who don't really, you know or care that much about, you know, what you do professionally.
When we took my daughter to the first pediatrician visit with her new pediatrician, she was able to talk and have a conversation with the pediatrician. And the pediatrician is talking to her about her parents and what your parents do. And my daughter says, well, you know, my mommy's a doctor, but, you know, since only girls can be doctors, my daddy had to find something else to do. So he's a lawyer. It's really a shame.
From the mouths of babes. Mr. Anderson, did you want to add something?
Do you have any stories or advice on how these students can either lead with their faith or what role their faith can play in their career, especially at a young age? Is it safe?
Well, I'm going to give you my personal opinion, and this is personal opinion, so no one go Google all the stories about me after this. Although I think I have some knowledge of this. I have never hidden it. I mean, it's always been pretty much out there on everything, kind of who I was. And so every job I've gotten, every position I've gotten, it has been very evident that faith is very important in my life, and it always has been. So speaking personally, that is how I chose, but I did it very early, and I will tell you, you're gonna laugh at this, Dean. I was filling out my application for the Department of Justice, my resume, and Professor, was it Nowlin?
Oh, yes.
Told us not to put, in that particular case, Federalist Society or Christian Legal Society on our resume, because we would never get an internship at the Department of Justice. So one student, who was much higher ranked, by the way, than I was, number, I think, 2 at the time in the class, did not put it on hers, and I put it on mine, and I got the internship, and she did not. And from that time on, I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna stand by, if this is who I am, I'm not gonna hide that. So that's my story, but that's personal, so don't always do that and come blame me later.
Yes, Professor Nowlin is now Dean at Texas Tech School of Law, and I am Dean at Ave Maria School of Law. Coincidence? I will say that the truth will always will out. That's my experience of life.
And he was the Federalist Society professor.
I was, proud.
Yeah. But he was involved, and that was just the Professor Nowlin.
I think it is a great blessing of the time in which we live, and it's okay, if you don't mind my borrowing the phrase, for the dogma to live loudly within us. You know, I don't think we face the prejudices as people of faith that we might have faced as recently as 20 or 25 years ago. Certainly there are places where that prejudice remains, but I don't think the courts are one of them. And I don't think that law firms, by and large, are one of them. Although, you know, there will be pressure on you in a private law firm, you know, maybe not to lead so much with your faith. I encourage you to be yourself, and if faith is part of your daily experience and part of your daily walk, other people will respect you as long as your output as a lawyer is solid. You know, I remember I had a you know, like a cross of St. Francis of Assisi in my office in New York, and that was odd at Davis Polk. You know, it was not typical at Davis Polk, but it never got me in trouble. To the contrary, it drew questions like, you know, why do you have that? And it allowed me to minister and to refresh myself. And so I don't think I've ever been penalized because of being honest about my faith.
I just want to follow that up. I hope you all caught that. Don't lead with your faith and be a terrible lawyer. That is actually very important advice.
Well, I would like to continue this all afternoon, but my faculty will put my head on a pike. We have a class at 1:30, so please, everyone, join me in thanking the justices.